So you can see again just how rough my initial roughs are. They're nothing more than squiggles really. It really is just about feeling it out. Don't get too fussy. You're going to move this stuff around a lot. You're going to be back and forth, feeling out the flow. This is not the time to get fussy. This is the time to find rhythm and flow. So the next stage was to do a decent-ish rough. Like, it's still really rough. This is again me just feeling things out, right? So here he is, comes up, he lands. Yeah, just feeling it through with a little bit more development into the posing. Now, let me talk a little bit about viewport optimization, because I think I finally found a really nice optimization. So working in Eevee is, for me, impossible in terms of drawing, because Eevee is real time and it's a little bit too demanding. So normally I'm in matcap. I find this to be the normal thing that I usually view in Blender generally. But again, as you can see, you can't really see the drawing clearly against the background, right? So this is what I would suggest for like a really nice optimal drawing 2D into the thing. So I'm in the 2D animation tab here. I don't think that actually makes an awful lot of difference because I've kind of changed everything anyway. But if I'm on this symbol here, the full shaded symbol, drop that down and go to flat, right? Now when you switch that to it initially, it will be like this, right? So you won't have any lighting whatsoever, you won't have any shade going on. And it's probably a little bit too abstract, and you know, it's nice and clean, but I think having a little bit of context is better, you know, a little bit of depth. So if you actually put your shadow layer on, and you can kind of put that up and down however much you want, even if it's just a tiny bit, you know, it's enough to give that context that I think it really helps you know exactly where you are and what you're doing. I mean, it's just how I rough and then clean up stuff. I had him pathed, right? So he's coming up here, he's going to do a little kind of launch up. So he's backing away as he's going up here. He's kind of turning, backs up, shoots while he's in midair, lands, does a little bit of a cushion there, and then he starts turning to this guy who's coming up on him there. Boom, shoots, slides. It's knocked up in the air. So a little word here is, this was something I would advise doing, is even if you're not going to see the character, because that character is completely off frame there, right, when it gets launched up, still draw something in for it, right? So you know that your consistency and the flow is all still working, and it kind of is physically sort of legitimate, you know? So then he comes down, he lands. You can see the Suzanne monkey over here come in, and the other monkey come in there. So he's going to do a slash. I mean, you can, even at this stage, you can see how absolutely filthy some of these roughs are, right? Like, some of these are actually, I mean, to me, I know what this is, right? I'm looking at it because this is my shorthand. So I'm looking at this and I know what this is. And I think these are actually reading okay here. But like some of these, like here, are absolutely stinking still. But they do the job, don't they? You know, you can read them. Next is the cleanup past them for the main character. I did this because I wanted to kind of just lock down the main character. For this point, I was happy enough with him, so I kind of just wanted to tie him down for the cleanup and then do a fill layer for him as well before I started any of the enemies. So as you can see here, I've still got the rough layer on, and I changed the color to be blue in the materials so that it was easier to read against the thing. I've also got here the layers faded to help that read. So I'll switch that off for now, and I'll just drop the fill in as well so you can see that. So here he comes, just slightly more refined artwork. Again, it's not clean in inverted commas, you know, it's not like animation quality clean, but it's a storyboard, remember? These are supposed to be animatics and storyboards. They aren't supposed to be super clean, polished things. This is absolutely enough for what I need it to be. You know, these things are moving pretty quick. There's no need to labor on them too much. So up he goes, lands there. You know, this stuff, I think this was quite tricky because you've got like the ground contact, so making sure this didn't feel too slidey was important. So I had to kind of add in quite a few frames there to help that work. So there he goes with the slash, and then off he goes. He's sliding a bit there, but hey ho. So next was time to move on to the alien creatures, and as I stated earlier, same with the layout. I've approached this very much as a one at a time kind of thing, right? So that I don't get overwhelmed. I'm not trying to do all the characters at the same time. I'm just focusing on one, making sure that works, especially at least up to the sort of their main sort of moment, and then leaving it there. So this is how rough my initial roughs look like, right? They are filth, pure filth, right? But they're there to convey energy. This is purely about me trying to convey the sense of intent and motion and dynamism that I'm after. So they're really scrap. I mean, they're basically just directional lines almost to a point, right? And trying to get the timing correctly on them and everything. Okay, so that's what the uber filth rough looked like. So then I went over it and cleaned it up a bit. I mean, it's still rough, but it's definitely more legible. So up he comes, does a jump, and then when this guy's going to shoot, which is about boom, there's the reaction. The head goes, he lands in a heap, down, body dies, right? Still very loose, still very rough, but as long as the silhouette and the action conveys the intention, I'm happy enough to move on. So that's that one done. So I filled the character in then to give it a silhouette. I actually changed what I find it helps actually is if you assign a different type of material to like enemy characters than you do the central character, at least for this period of where you're just trying to work this stuff out. So I filled him in with a grey. Silhouettes really help readability, so I advise doing that. Now up in the foreground comes this other guy. This is the rough for him, so he's going to leap forward. The guy's going to kind of turn and not quite get enough of a shot on him. He's going to slide and kind of, this guy's going to bang down on him and then slide away. You see him kind of skidding away there into the distance. And this character then, this new little bug, he's going to scurry around and then jump, open his like 4 front legs, and then disarm and skid through. So that's what the rough looked like for those. Here's the more refined pass of the second alien and third alien. So boom, 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 boom. Again, if you want to see how, like roughly how I went ahead and drew this stuff, go and look at the time lapse video. You'll see this stuff in a bit more detail, but very, very fast. Yeah. So what I'm trying to do is the moments where I think are key. Like for me, the key pose on this character here, on this alien, was this pose, right? Once it's kind of skidding away. So I wanted to make sure I kind of nailed that one, and I was happy with that. And then on this one, the main pose is this kind of thing, right? So I did slightly more refined artwork on that to make sure that kind of reads, and the contact, this one is going to contact with the main character, right? So a little bit more effort has to be played into this because it actually needs to look like it kind of contacts and then skids away, you know, and you can see there, even outside of the frame, I've extended the artwork so that it actually works. Next was the tail end of Creature 3, Alien 3, and then into Creature 4. Creature 4 is quite an intense one, and Creature 3 kind of evolved a bit here in terms of what I had in mind. So as you can see, Creature 3 is on the right hand here. Now I keep the framing so you can see slightly outside as well. So this was sort of unplanned, or at least it was expanded on quite a bit from the previous block out. So up he comes, and he's going to kind of chase him, and he's going to like fly after him with all these little wings flapping away there. Very crude, but it does the job. All right, so that's 3 taken care of. With alien number 4, I really had to get the timing and everything right on this because, you know, he's going to get decapitated here by the main character, right? So I wanted to get that kind of sense of bounding. So even though, you know, you can see that these drawings are pretty loose, I think I managed to capture that sense of bounding towards you fairly successfully there in the super rough. Cleaner version. So here it comes. You see how much of a difference putting a flat silhouette on something makes, right? It just instantly feels like a solid form. When I'm storyboarding a lot of time, if I'm really up against it, this is in Storyboard Pro, if I'm really up against it, I'll work really rough and make sure the lines are closed enough so I can do quick autofills. And just having silhouettes of characters, even if your line work is really rough, it just makes things instantly readable. And then what you might do as well, I tend to do, is you might have a different color for each character, which then makes them instantly readable, even if everything's rough and there's loads of characters interacting with one another. So there he goes, right? So you got like this bumpity bump, wait, and then jump, and then so he's pulling his knife, and then, and you like, I intentionally left a little delay there because that's, you know, he's got to cut through it before the head comes off, right? And then there he comes towards camera. This bit I was never happy about. You see the way he kind of passes through him here, but without some serious messing about, that's difficult to get around. I mean, it's very quick. It's not very noticeable when you watch it full speed, but I know it's there, and now you do too. Yeah, but yeah. So he falls towards camera, and what I wanted here as well, I was playing with, was when the head gets decapitated, because of momentum, right? The body is heavier than the head, so the body's going to carry through right the way through to the right. The head is kind of getting lopped off, and the momentum of that might actually carry it more like towards camera and kind of go over to the left, and it just makes the composition here more satisfying to me, that I wanted to feel like we were going through the decapitation as it was happening. And then here we got Buggy McBuggerson with his wings. So I just got his crappy little wing layer on him. It's just that, like, got an opacity on it. The wings are down to like 0.1% opacity. Buzz, chase. Yep, that's him. A good idea when you're working on, say, you're focusing heavily on like one small section of your timeline, is to actually restrict the frame range down the bottom here. So if you click on start there and put the number in you want and then end on the number you want, what that means is, you see this bit that's grey here and you've got those brown on the outside. That basically means if you play it, it'll just loop that one small section. So if you just, you know, you're working on it and you're just like, oh, does this work? I'm gonna play it back. It just keeps it on this loop. It's quite an efficient way of just focusing in on one section, not having to, like, just constantly manually scrub through it. Let's take a look at 5, 6, and 7 all together, because they're pretty brief. They're not on screen for very long. So what we've got is, as we're coming around this bend, he kind of, the main character kind of does little bit of a kind of a wall bounce thing there. And then up on the right of the screen comes number 5. So he's doing a big rise up lunge, very similar to, you know, the previous one earlier from a different angle. They are the same species, so it's likely that they would actually have similar movements. And then as that one kind of misses and kind of the momentum pulls that one around to the left, what you've got then is number 6. He's kind of running in there, boppity bop bop, jumps, but like he's coming too close to the edge, right? So he sticks his feet down, you get rubble, you know, as he screams after the character, you know, he's missed him, he's frustrated. And then what we've got then is number 7. He was coming right in from the distance, and he leaps and cliffhanger, right? So he's gonna get him there, and he's clearly gonna have him. Whether I'll ever follow that up or not is another matter, but for now I think it's a cliffhanger. So let's just do a quick pass now, and you can see how, because remember, like all of these, as I mentioned earlier, each one of these grease pencil layers is a grease pencil object that's parented to one of those 3D objects that we set up at the beginning. So you can see the Cezanne monkeys there then. Here they come, they're attached. Now you can see that as it goes on, right, sometimes they get quite loose, you know, because they're just not in exactly the right position. It doesn't matter, right? The 3D objects are there to kind of help you identify where you are in 3D space. There is a question, I think, and I've been evaluating this as I've been doing it, is it worth using the 3D objects and parenting to them in all circumstances? And I think the answer to that is no. Reason being, okay, when is it useful, right? It's useful when you're gonna actually hand this over to a previs, or you actually want to do previs at the same time as boarding, right? It's absolutely valuable then, because you've already got your 3D block up, right? Where it becomes, I think, more of a hindrance than a help is when you want to retime the animation of those pathed characters, right? Because in order for me to kind of change the timing on this creature here, for instance, I would have to, you know, switch on the visibility of the 3D object, click the 3D object, then use his keyframes, manipulate those, and then kind of like, you know, make sure that feels okay. It's just a couple of steps extra anytime you want to start manipulating things. And really, all you kind of need it for is that initial reference point. So I think going forward, I might do less of this kind of attaching to 3D stuff. I think the reason I did this scene, because I really wanted to kind of push it to the next level of complexity over what I did previously, right? So I wanted to do multiple characters interacting with this stuff and just to see how that went. And my evaluation is that it works, but there are complications that come into the process, and sometimes those complications are worth it and sometimes they're not, and you'll have to use your own judgment on that, as I will.